For decades, when American companies wanted lower production costs, the answer was almost automatic. Build in China. China offered scale, infrastructure, labor depth, supplier ecosystems, and cost efficiency that were difficult to match. Entire industries restructured their supply chains around Chinese manufacturing. It wasn't just about cheap labor, it was about speed, coordination, and an industrial base that could produce almost anything at massive scale. But in 2026, that equation is shifting. More U.S. manufacturers are building in Mexico instead of China, and this shift is not symbolic. It reflects deep changes in trade policy, geopolitics, logistics economics, and corporate risk management. The first reason is proximity. Mexico is physically close to the United States. That may sound obvious, but in modern supply chains, distance translates directly into cost, time, and risk. Shipping goods across the Pacific takes weeks. It requires ocean freight capacity, port access, customs processing, and inland transportation. During global disruptions, those shipping lanes can become congested and expensive. Delays ripple through entire production systems. Manufacturing in Mexico shortens that chain dramatically. Products can move by truck or rail across the border in days, not weeks. That speed reduces inventory requirements. It improves responsiveness to demand changes. It lowers transportation costs and reduces exposure to global shipping volatility. In an era where demand is less predictable, speed is a competitive advantage. The second reason is trade policy. U.S.-China trade tensions over the past several years have changed the cost structure of importing from China. Tariffs on certain goods have increased input costs. Trade negotiations remain uncertain. Political rhetoric continues to highlight economic rivalry. Even when tariffs fluctuate, the underlying geopolitical tension remains. Companies planning multi-year investments do not want to build new factories in environments where trade policy could shift quickly. That uncertainty carries risk. Mexico, by contrast, operates within the framework of the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement. USMCA provides clearer rules, defined trade structures, and regional content requirements. That stability is attractive to manufacturers looking for long-term visibility. Another major factor is risk diversification. The pandemic exposed vulnerabilities in highly concentrated supply chains. Companies that relied heavily on a single country for production face significant disruptions when factories shut down or logistics stalled. As a result, many executives began reevaluating geographic concentration. Mexico offers a form of nearshoring, shifting production closer to the end market while reducing dependence on Asia. It does not eliminate global exposure entirely, but it spreads risk across regions. For companies focused on resilience, that diversification is valuable. Labor dynamics also play a role. China's labor costs have risen significantly over the past decade. Wages in major manufacturing hubs are no longer as low as they once were. Meanwhile, Mexico offers competitive labor costs combined with a young workforce and growing technical expertise. In sectors such as automotive, electronics assembly, appliances, and industrial components, Mexico has developed strong manufacturing capabilities. It is not simply about lower wages. It is about cost competitiveness, combined with geographic advantage. There is also the issue of intellectual property and data security. Certain advanced manufacturing sectors, including semiconductors, aerospace, and defense-related components, face heightened scrutiny around technology transfer and data protection. Building closer to home simplifies regulatory compliance and reduces exposure to geopolitical sensitivities. Companies operating in strategic industries may find it easier to align with U.S. policy priorities by investing within North America rather than in China. Energy availability is another factor. Mexico's industrial regions, particularly near the northern border, have expanded infrastructure to support manufacturing growth. Energy access, logistics corridors, and industrial parks have developed rapidly in response to nearshoring demand. Meanwhile, some U.S. regions face power constraints tied to data center growth and electrification pressures. Mexico's proximity allows companies to integrate supply chains while still serving U.S. markets efficiently. Another important driver is customer preference and perception. Made in North America has become more appealing for certain buyers. Large retailers and corporate customers increasingly prioritize supply chain transparency, regional sourcing, and reduced shipping footprints. Nearshoring to Mexico aligns with those preferences without significantly increasing cost structures. Automotive manufacturing offers a clear example. Major U.S. and global automakers have expanded production in Mexico for years, but investment has accelerated as companies reconfigure supply chains for electric vehicles and advanced components. Mexico has become deeply integrated into the North American automotive ecosystem. Parts move across borders multiple times during production. That level of integration is far more efficient within a regional trade framework than across oceans. However, this shift does not mean China is disappearing from global supply chains. China remains a manufacturing powerhouse with unmatched scale in many industries. For certain products and components, its ecosystem is still difficult to replicate, but companies are increasingly adopting a China Plus One strategy, maintaining some production in China while adding capacity elsewhere. For many U.S.-focused manufacturers, Mexico is the logical plus one. There is also a strategic timing element. Building a factory is a long-term decision. Companies are looking 5, 10, or even 20 years ahead. They are evaluating political stability, trade predictability, labor markets, infrastructure investment, and regulatory environments. Mexico's alignment within North American trade agreements provides a level of forward visibility that is attractive under current geopolitical conditions. Financial considerations reinforce this trend. Shorter supply chains reduce working capital needs. Faster shipping times mean lower inventory levels. Lower inventory improves cash flow. In a higher-rate environment where capital costs matter more, those operational efficiencies translate into meaningful financial advantages. So while labor cost differences still matter, total supply chain economics increasingly favor regional production. This shift is not without challenges. Border infrastructure must keep pace with rising trade volumes. Labor markets in certain Mexican regions are tightening. Security concerns and regulatory complexity still require careful navigation. But despite those challenges, investment momentum continues. In the end, U.S. manufacturers are building in Mexico instead of China because the equation has changed. It is no longer just about the lowest production cost. It is about proximity, predictability, resilience, trade alignment, and long-term strategic control. In a world where uncertainty is higher and supply chain risk carries real financial consequences, being closer to your primary market offers a powerful advantage. And for many American companies, Mexico now represents that advantage.